All right, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. I'm your host, Alan Ulrich, here with my son, actually tonight, Matt Ulrich, commonly known as Budrich on Twitter or X, whatever they call it now. But Bob is on his way to New Orleans, and tomorrow, I believe he flies in with a Thursday or Friday trip. He's on the Love Boat with several Saints players. The Saints cruise he's been talking about forever. So, best of luck, Bob. I know the past 2 weeks have been crazy. You're packing suitcases. You're going to pack far. If you pack like me, you're going to pack far more than you'll ever use. So, I get it. I get it. I really do. Guys, yes, Donald. The draft is almost a month away. I think it's a month away from this weekend. Is that correct, Matt?
Yeah, it's from the 20. I think it's from the 25th to the 27th.
Yes, I think it's almost exactly a month. Away. So, yes, we're early today. Early tonight because usually Bob is just getting on about this time, and it's not a knock on Bob, but then we always seem to have connection problems just as we get ready to go live. So, whatever, it's not a bash at all. So Matt, the news that's been breaking over this weekend and this week has been, first, we talked about it last week too. First off, Cam Ward said it would be his quote unquote dream to be a Saint. And then his pro day was yesterday, and just about everybody who's anybody with the Saints was out there. Mickey Loomis, Jeff Ireland, Kellen Moore, some scouts, Doug Nussmeier. They were all out there to see Cam Ward. So speculation on Twitter has been running rampant that the Titans are thinking about shopping the pick and that the Saints are going to trade up because Mickey Loomis loves to trade up. That they're going to trade up and try and acquire Cam Ward. Based off of what Carolina did with Chicago, Chicago was the number one overall pick. Carolina was at 9. They moved up to number 1. What did the Bears get from Carolina, or what did Carolina give up in order for the Bears to swap picks?
So Carolina, they gave up DJ Moore. They also gave up their first-round pick, which was pick 9 back in 2023, a late second-round pick, which was pick 61, the 2024 first-round selection, which ended up being the number 1 overall pick that year, and a 2025 second-round pick. So even in this draft, they were still paying
for Bryce Young.
They're still paying the piper. Yep. So that would probably be close if the Saints wanted to pull that trade, and similar to Carolina trade, of course, they had to give up pick 9. They don't have. I doubt they would try and give up pick 40. So it'll probably be their first third-round pick 71. They're probably throwing a 4th or so in there. And, of course, you got our 2026 first, 2027 second. And, you would have to throw in at minimum, Chris Olave.
Yeah. And, a lot of – and this was something I had written on Twitter a while back, and this is the issue. There's so much Derek Carr fatigue that the fans they want anybody but Carr. So, and this has been a common theme that we've talked about on this show many, many times. If you're going to do anybody but Carr, you also have to realize that you're going to take a big swing at this. And the big swing is equivalent to what you just said, what the Bears got from Carolina, what Carolina had to give up in order to get Bryce Young. And what's the problem in Carolina? Well, Carolina doesn't have very much around him, and they're still struggling to put that team together. they did win some games once Bryce Young seemed to come on. But how long will it take Cam Ward to come on? Is he going to be a guy that's going to be ready to start in year one? Because if you make a move like that, you've got to play him as soon as you can.
Yeah.
And then if you don't play him, you wait a year to play him. Now you possibly could go 5-12 again, or you could win maybe 7 games. And if that's the case, then you're looking at possibly giving up, I don't know, a top 5 pick, maybe, depending on how the season goes. We just lived through this with the Olave Penning trade, where Penning's pick ended up being number 10 overall, and then Philadelphia benefited from it. I'm just looking in terms of a rebuild. I don't know if I want to give up that much. That's part of the reason why the show is called the Hall & Oates song. I can't go for that. I just can't. We're not one player away. And as much as fans want to make it out as you really start a rebuild with a new quarterback, I just can't see doing that in order to start a rebuild, because I think we need all those picks. One of the problems this team has had and why they have so many old players is because we haven't had enough picks, and the picks that we did make weren't very good. Peyton Turner, Marcus Davenport, Cesar Ruiz. We're not getting a lot of production out of those guys. Two of them aren't even on the team any longer. So that hurts the team a lot. Ricky Williams, but that was a different general manager. It was Bill Kuharich, and that was Mike Ditka actually announcing that, really removing all the leverage that Kuharich had. And still the Cincinnati Bengals didn't bite on it, because the Bengals was the first team they reached out to because they were worried the Colts were going to take them. That was the first team they reached out to make a trade like that. And it would have set the Bengals for life, but everyone's got to remember the Bengals don't trade. They do not trade first-round picks for anything. What is your opinion of Cam Ward? What do you think of him? Because his pro day, they're just gushing and oohing and eyeing over a guy you just throw into receivers in his underwear.
His play is unsustainable. It just really is. If you want one game that summarizes what Cam Ward can bring you, watch his game against Virginia Tech. It gives you everything that Cam Ward will bring it. He'll give you these great throws where he's putting it exactly where it needs to be. Only his receiver can get it. It's towards the sideline, to where it's either a big catch or an incompletion, and it's in stride, and you're like, wow, this really is a franchise quarterback. And then literally on the next play, he can't read a defense where a safety is clearly on the right side of the field. He has a one-on-one matchup with his tight end, Elijah Orero, if you guys want to know who it is, against a corner with no help whatsoever. And instead of looking at the left going, okay, I got my tight end going against a corner, all I need to do is wait until he beats him and throw to him and just let my tight end win. Instead, he never takes his eyes off the right side, and he ends up throwing an interception that goes for a big return.
Is he the best quarterback in the draft, though?
No, I don't think he is. I think he's a really good quarterback in comparison, because I think he has very enticing arm talent, but he does make some of those mistakes that I kind of knock Shador on. The pocket drifting, he wants to play hero ball. And I think, honestly, probably the best quarterback maybe might be Louisville's Tyler Show.
Interesting. Greg Cosell kind of agrees with you, too. He likes him right behind Cam Ward, though.
Yeah.
But where would Tyler Show go?
Tyler Show is probably going to go day 3, probably 4th, 5th round, and it's primarily because of his medical history. He's had 2 broken collarbones and a broken leg.
No, he's a saint.
Yeah.
Fit right in with this team.
Yeah.
Always injured? Absolutely, he's a saint.
Yeah. And one of his first full years of starting was actually last year because he finally stayed healthy. And if you actually watch how he got hurt, it's just these massive, massive, violent hits that you're just like, yeah, I'm surprised he didn't break more bones getting hit like that. But Show has the great talent. He has the great arm strength. He has the picturesque prototype size of being like 6'5", 221. He's underrated in terms of his mobility, where he can run, but chooses to stay in the pocket. He's pretty good at reducing turnover-worthy plays. Pretty good at getting that ball out, not taking a sack. He's pretty good. He's pretty good overall. I would really like him.
So if I were to ask you then, give me kind of your top 5 quarterbacks. Who would you have in your top 5?
It would
in
be
order.
In order. Okay. I'm going to go from 5 to 1. 5, I would say Jalen Milroe. I love his athleticism. He's still a project, but I really do love the raw athleticism he brings. 4 would be Curtis Rourke from Indiana. Traditional pocket passer, built like a pocket passer, really, really talented. 3 would be Will Howard. I like him. He's got a good arm. I think he's a very good quarterback. He just needs a good offensive coach to kind of remind him about the things he knows he can't do. He just sometimes forgets to do it. 2 would be Cam Ward, and of course 1 would be Tyler Show.
Interesting. So you don't have Jackson Dart or Shedeur Sanders in this top 5 list.
Yeah.
What do you have knocked against Shedeur?
Shedeur, it's the it's the pocket drifting. I feel like he doesn't step up when he needs to. He just kind of starts taking a step back and he doesn't realize it, and he gets himself more into pressures, not just the offensive line, not blocking well. I mean, sacks are always going to be a quarterback sack. You always have to look at how long are they holding that ball? What are they doing inside the pocket? Are they drifting back? Because every offensive tackle, they're trying to get the edge rusher to over pursue. And if your quarterback is backing up 10 yards, how's that the offensive tackle's fault? But to me, it's the pocket drifting, average arm talent, and honestly, I think Dylan Gabriel from Oregon is better than Shedeur Sanders, and they both got average arms.
Yeah, my biggest knock with Dylan Gabriel was only 5'11", and I know Drew Brees was 6 foot if he stood on his tiptoes, but short quarterbacks generally just do not make it in the NFL because of, especially ones under 6 feet tall, because you've got very tight passing windows, and because linemen are so big, they really are throwing to spots. They have to be incredibly accurate to make up for their lack of height. Yeah, it's tough. So what about Jackson Dart? What do you see about Jackson Dart? Because Fletcher Mackel must go to sleep every night with a picture of Jackson Dart next to his bed. He loves Jackson Dart. The only quarterback he loves more than Jackson Dart right now is Cam Ward. Yeah. But he loves him some Jackson Dart.
Jackson Dart is a quarterback that, sure, he could make every throw if he wanted to, but he clearly likes 2 throws. That is deep routes, whether it be go or post routes, and comeback routes. That's the ones he feels the most comfortable with. Any other throw, and it feels like he's being forced to. It feels like he's being forced to do it. I don't like also he doesn't go through progressions consistently. I worry about him being able to diagnose a defense, whether pre-snap or post-snap, because it feels like he's already dead set on what he wants to do. He just hopes that the defense allows him to do it. If it's a throw over the middle, he hopes that guy's open in the middle. If it's a bubble screen, he hopes that he has the advantage instead of looking to see what is that defense giving him. I had some people yell at me, telling me, "Oh, it's just Lane Kiffin." in his offense. I'm like, either Lane Kiffin is a quarterback terrorist, or you guys are just being completely, you're choosing to be ignorant on Jackson Dart and how he is not that good.
My problem with Jackson Dart is I think his mechanics are awful. I think his throwing platform is awful.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why you're seeing the issues that you're seeing with his throws over the middle. It's like it's scattershot, and it's good luck if you can get it. But he's throwing behind. He's throwing. People talk about Derek Carr with hospital balls. Jackson Dart's going to throw a lot of hospital balls because he is just simply not accurate. He just it's not there. He's more mobile. He's younger. He probably has a stronger arm than Carr now. And he does throw some beautiful 9 routes or rail routes along the sideline, deep outs and things like that. But when it comes to just the basic executions of an offense, I just don't see it. And if I'm going to take a shot on a quarterback who has some bad mechanics and questionable throwing platforms, I'm going to take a shot on Jalen Milroe over Jackson Dart, only because you can't coach speed. And Milroe is just probably the fastest quarterback in the draft. But again, I'm not drafting him at 9, either of them. I would be looking at him. Well, here's the thing. I'm looking at those guys in the second round, but I'm also looking at trading down in the first round to get more second round picks so I can take more talented players, so I can afford to take a quarterback earlier than I would want to, just because quarterbacks are overdrafted and there's teams are always looking for quarterbacks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I know the Giants just signed Russell Wilson, but I don't think they're taking themselves out of the rookie quarterback gig. I think that they'll still be in play for Shador. I think they're still going to try and make a trade for Cam Ward. I mean, Jameis is on a 2-year deal. Russell's on a 1-year deal. So clearly, now those guys are probably the guy going forward. So, they are just throwing everything at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, and the Saints fans bash our quarterback situation. How would you like to be the Steelers right now?
Yeah,
the Steelers are on the Aaron Rodgers watch.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the Brett Favre watch. Is he going to retire? Is he going to play? Is there smoke coming from the hyperbolic chamber that Aaron Rodgers is sitting in, or the dark hole he's sitting in, so you make a decision on whether he's going to keep playing? Because the Steelers are desperate for a quarterback. And if Aaron Rodgers does not go to the Steelers, they're not going to the season with Mason Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer.
Yeah.
They're going to go in and they're going to try and trade up for Shador, or they'll draft Milroe or Jackson Dart or someone like that, because they need a guy. They do not have a starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Both of the guys that were their starters last year are now on other teams.
I saw this. Sometimes some Pittsburgh Steelers beat writers appearing in my feed. This is the 3rd time in a row where the Steelers have overhauled their quarterback room.
Mm-hmm.
You look at all the quarterbacks they had. Last year they had, 2023, they had Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph. Next year it's Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, and I think like one other quarterback, Skylar Thompson. No, it's not Scott. No, not Skylar Thompson. It's like one other quarterback. Now it's just Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson for now. So new quarterback room. I mean, this is that's been Tomlin's problem for the past few years. He can't get offense right.
Yeah, life post Ben Roethlisberger has not been good for them.
I wouldn't even see post Ben Roethlisberger. I would just say the last 3 years of Ben Roethlisberger have been nothing but pain. Because
again, you're not drafting for the future. You did take Kenny Pickett, but you did not plan for the future. So to me, that's a cautionary tale. The Steelers are somebody who used to get the draft right all the time. The Steelers are the guys that used to be the consistent guy every year, putting together good teams, getting high-end talent on that team, and now they've got a mess over there. So, I mean, we bashed Derek Carr. Derek Carr is an average quarterback, but the Steelers, the organization, the Saints have tried to emulate. Well, they have been emulating them. They've been emulating their quarterback room pretty much. They're just not pulling the trigger and dumping the quarterbacks that quickly. I don't know what they're going to do other than I think they're going to draft a quarterback, and they're going to be desperate to move up to go get a guy, especially if Shedeur Sanders is sitting there at 9. Yeah. They're going to want to trade up.
Yeah, and I think they want Shedeur because they think he is probably closer to start. I mean, as much as I don't like Shedeur, as Jackson Dart and I do like Jalen Milroe, I would feel bad for them going to the Steelers because they would have to deal with Arthur Smith. They would have to deal with the fact that they can't build an offensive line. They have to deal with the fact that they have wide receivers that are going to probably throw MMA fights in the end zone after an interception happens.
Well, you're going to have you're going to have Pickens, and you're going to have Metcalf in there who are going to throw a temper tantrum. That's going to be a heck of a thing for a young quarterback to have to deal with, those personalities in the locker room. Yeah. So it's interesting. But the only reason why I'm bringing up the Steelers quarterback situation is because, as I shared from Calvin earlier, I'm definitely interested in trading down more than trading up. Cam Ward is not the guy. To me, if I'm trading up, I'm looking. It's got to be somebody who I feel like is a can't miss prospect. A Joe Burrow when he came out. Even though I wasn't a fan of him, Jaden Daniels did prove to be a can't miss prospect. And I just feel like the 2026 class is a better class. Yeah. So to me, this is why I'm trading down. I'm trading down. Say with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm hoping Shedeur slides to 9. I'm trading down with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They don't have a second-round pick. They have a first-round pick and then the 83rd pick, which I think is the middle of the bottom of the third round. I'm not sure. But the Steelers are somebody I would be interested in because then I'm saying, you know what you got to do then? You got to give me your number 1 next year. Then I'm entering the 2026 class with 2 number 1 picks. And with 2 number 1 picks, I don't give a damn what my record is in 2025 because I can do whatever the hell I want to do. I can use those 2 number 1 picks and move up into the top 5 if I wanted to, no matter where they are. If there's a quarterback up there I got to have, like say a Drew Allar from Penn State. Or someone like that, or Arch Manning if he would have come out in 1 year. I can. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at trading up and getting, trading down and getting that extra number 1 pick. And I think I can get that out of a guy like the Steelers. So I'm absolutely loving the problems the Steelers have at quarterback. And I'm hoping Sanders slides past the Giants and the Browns and the Jets, and they're going to be more interested in a Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe that he'll take in the second round. So, Calvin, this draft class is for you. So last night I did a mock draft on Pro Football Sports Network, whatever it is, a mock draft system. It's not a bad one. I find it more realistic than some of the other mock boards. Some of the other mock boards, they just kind of go crazy and bizarre things happen. Ashton Genty in the low 20s, that kind of stuff. Just stuff that I don't think is realistic at all. So what I did in this draft, I traded down from 9 to 12 with the Dallas Cowboys because the Dallas Cowboys wanted Genty at 9. So they got him. I picked up the Dallas's pick at 12 and also their second round pick. Then Denver came calling. because Tyler Warren was still on the board. I traded down with Denver, picked up Denver's first round, the 20th overall pick, a second round pick, and their fourth round pick in 2026. So with that is in my bag now. I've got one first rounder at 20, and I've got 3 second round picks. Those second round picks, I did Mikael Williams, the edge rusher from Georgia, went all SEC. As I say, Xavier Watts, the safety from Notre Dame at 40. I had Dallas's pick, so that was 44. I took Trey Amos, the cornerback from Ole Miss. And then with pick 51, this pick's for Calvin, Deion Walker, the nose tackle from Kentucky. So I've just rebuilt my defense with the first 4 picks. I got my edge rusher. I got my planet-sized, space-eating nose tackle. And then I also have a new safety and a new corner. So my safety is being groomed to take Tyrann Matthews' place. And I have my corner to go opposite Kool-Aid McKinstry. So now I can keep Alontae Taylor in the slot. So I've rebuilt most of my defense with those 4 picks. And that was just the first and second round. Third round, I picked up Caleb Johnson, the running back from Iowa. My other third round pick, LSU fans are going to love me. I don't usually pick LSU players, but this is one I grabbed. Kyron Lacey. I picked up him at pick 93 because he slides, but he's my big physical possession receiver. He slides because of the car accident, the hit and run he did. It looks like he may not face jail time on this because he wasn't responsible for this hit and run, but he did flee the scene, if I remember correctly. I don't know specifically behind this case, but he's not being sought in connection with the accident, just that he fled the scene of an accident. I'm not sure if I'm saying this right. And then, so I've now addressed my running back and my receiver. So now we're looking at 4th and 6th round pick. 4th round pick, I picked an offensive tackle, Anthony Belton from NC State. He can play tackle or guard. My linebacker is pick 131, Danny Stutzman, the inside linebacker from Oklahoma. So now, again, I'm rebuilding my defense. So if we're going to go to a 3-4, we got every nose tackle. He's a run-stuffing linebacker who you can put him next to Pete Werner. Then I have pick 184, Marcus Tate, the offensive guard from Clemson. He's a little raw, but he's got the size and he's a mauler, and he can also work in outside zone based offense, which is what the Saints are going to run. He's not a guy that you plug in on day one as your starter at guard. We're still going to have a hole at guard. I know we signed the kid from, was it Chicago?
No, it was from Tennessee.
Tennessee. And I don't know if he is going to be a guy that that can play right away. I think he's a more developmental guy. We'll see what we have in the next couple of years. But to me, Marcus Tate probably should replace a guy like Salvadori, who just did not pan out and was a higher pick. And at pick 184, I don't know. I mean, now you're starting to go for project guys. So that's what I got with my last 2 picks, both 7-round picks at the end of the draft, 248 and 254. The nose tackle from Georgia, Tyron Ingram Dawkins, who can play nose tackle and also can play on an odd man front, a 4-3 kind of tackle player. Again, he's somebody that you're going to work with, probably his rotational piece with Dion Walker. Also is a challenge for some of the other guys that are on this team, because we're trying to move on from Nathan Shepard and Kyron Sanders. And then my last pick, 254, a kick returner. He's small, he's undersized, but he's quick. Trevor Etienne, who is the younger brother of the Jaguars player.
Yeah, of Travis.
So that's my draft, 11 players, because I traded down and picked up 2 extra second-round picks. So 11 players. Rebuilt my entire defense if these guys all pan out. I got players at all 3 levels. I got 2 offensive linemen, 2 skill players, and 2 project players. So I really like this draft. I like it a lot. But I was tempted often to take one of the quarterbacks because they were all there. Jackson Dart lasted to the 4th round.
Wow. Yeah.
It was amazing. I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, you're trying to get me to draft Jackson Dart. I'm not doing it, but they're trying to get me to draft him. So that was my mock draft. My last one I did that one late last night. Who do you have listed as good targets for the Saints to look at pick 40?
So, as you mentioned, definitely Trey Amos, a cornerback from Ole Miss, is definitely high up on that list. I mean, if he can be there at pick 40, there's your opposite starting corner right there of Chloe McKinstry, and I think it would be a much better secondary. He's a Louisiana product. He started at UL, and then he transferred over to Ole Miss, and he didn't skip a beat. He took on that competition like a champ, and he still played at a very high level. Another guy I like at pick 40 is a wide receiver by the name of Eilick Ayomanor.
Oh, yeah.
Young
From
kid.
Stanford.
Yeah, young kid. Does have a bit of a drop problem, but one thing he does very, very well, he gets open. He knows how to get open. He does it incredibly well. He's got great speed. I mean, everyone knows this kid because he put Travis Hunter on a clinic when they went against each other.
Yeah. Oh, happy birthday, by the way, Chad. Today, I believe it is. Today is your birthday, Chad. So happy birthday. Yeah, my boy, Lee Gotro. Lee and I went to college together. He was an engineer. I was in arts humanities, so I never had any classes with him.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah. And there's a couple more players I like. One of them definitely is Donovan Jackson from Ohio State, the offensive lineman. If he can somehow get past all that, because I think he's going to get taken late in the first round. He's primarily left guard, but he kicked over left tackle in his last year with Ohio State and did fairly well covering for Josh Simmons. I think he'd be a fantastic addition for the Saints if we can get him at pick 40. And yeah, that's kind of about it. I know there's some other players some people might bring up, but those to me are just the top players I'm looking at. Can you hear me at all? Did I mute you? No, I didn't. I can't hear you at all. Can you hear me now? And I can't hear you. I don't know what happened. Great. They can hear me. Great. So it's your end. It's your fault. Great. Yeah. Oh, I heard you right there for a second. Well, I heard him take something out. Yeah. But yeah.
How
All right.
about now? Can you hear
Yeah,
me now?
I can hear you.
All right, you guys should be able to hear me better now.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know what's going on with this mic and this connection, but whenever I was doing fine with it for a while, but then when
Yeah.
I hooked it up tonight, I seemed to have everything. It was registering everything, so I
Mm-hmm.
just grabbed the old standby.
Yeah.
All right, so I didn't hear what you had said before that.
Yeah. I was talking about Donovan Jackson, the offensive lineman from Ohio State. That's a possible for pick 40.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah, how he has guard tackle flexibility. I think he might get taken late in the first round by some teams. Like I can see the Chiefs going after him if Tyler Booker is already gone. But I think if Donovan Jackson outlasts pick 40, I mean, now you have your starting five for the offensive line right there.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do another mock draft. Yeah, Mickey probably was trying to shut me up. Actually, it's like, God damn it, that's my draft. I'm getting ready to do right now.
Yeah.
Stop talking about all these players,
Whoops.
because that, of course, was the famous reason why the Chiefs traded up for Patrick Mahomes, because
Mm-hmm.
Sean Payton was talking about how he was the best quarterback he had ever scouted in all his years of scouting. So yeah. That's exactly it. He said, "Stop talking about him, Alan." So I'm gonna stop talking about him. Anyway, so I don't know if y'all heard me or not, but yeah, Lee Gotro commented he wanted to know how Chad and I know each other, and I said, "Well, we know each other from the Saints boards, message boards, and stuff." But Lee and I went to college. He was a huge Eagles fan, so Chad, if you see Lee in church, just ask him to play the opening licks of Hotel California one time. So, oh yeah, 28-3 this Friday. That's true. That is very true.
Yep.
Falcons Day, just like August 8th is Cowboys Day, 8/8. Uh, okay, yeah. My thing with pick number 40 is I want to make sure pick 40, let's say in the first round we do take a defensive end. I still think Tyler Warren's a very real target on the board. But let's
Mm-hmm.
say we take a defensive end, an edge rusher, either Walker or Williams or someone like that, because you're not going to get an Abdul Carter. He is going the second overall.
Yeah.
But if you were to take a defensive end, an edge rusher, and you didn't trade down from 9, you only have one pick at 40. I'm looking at, and I'm really leaning towards receivers because, quite frankly, in every mock draft I've ever done, receivers just start coming off the board like nobody's business. But it's
Mm-hmm.
tough because at the same time, we don't have a starting cornerback. And nothing since last week has there been any move on Asante Samuel Jr. or anybody like that. I do not feel comfortable going into the season with Kool-Aid McKinstry and Alante Taylor at corner.
Right.
So are you taking another defensive player, a cornerback, there at 40, or are you more likely to take a receiver at 40 because you don't think there's going to be anybody left when you come back around at pick 71?
Right. I am keep myself open because there's actually a couple players I like later in the draft both come from the same school that you could probably get at pick 93. That
Okay.
is Kobe Bryant and Romello Dawson from, but again, both from Kansas. Both are not the most athletic corners. Bryant ran a 4.53 40, Dotson ran a 4.59, but they are very, very productive and and are very, very good at zone. Kobe Bryant, I would say, is a little better than Dotson. He had 13 career interceptions, 2 returned for a touchdown. Dotson had 14 career interceptions, with 4 of them returned for a touchdown. Both are primarily outside corners. The reason why they're kind of later in the draft is because with Dotson's more athleticism, he's kind of limited, and disengagement blocks is not a strong suit or run defense. While with Kobe Bryant, it's more of he's a little thin, he's about 180 pounds, and he's very, very grabby, like Paulson Adebo level types of grabby.
Yeah, and that's my other issue. This is why I'm such a big proponent on trading down in the first round, because there's too many guys I like in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm really in love with Xavier Watts just because he's a ball hawking safety and he's a physical safety. Comes from productive school like Notre Dame. So it's tough for me to pass on him at 40, even though safety is not a need. It's going to be, because Tyrann Mathieu on his last legs. I know he wants to finish his career in New Orleans. I don't know when that's going to end. Cornerback, we don't have a cornerback, a starting outside cornerback right now. So it's tough for me to pass on a cornerback and taking a chance that a Kobe Bryant or someone like that is going to be available at 71 or 93. We did sign Brandon Cooks, but Brandon Cooks is another speed guy, and he's a small guy. So I don't know if Brandon Cooks, he might be able to be your number 3. I just still don't see that physical possession guy that can be my true number 1.
Yeah.
Chris Olave, I'm not counting on at all. Chris Olave is one of these guys that I just feel like he's just another hard hit away from being out for 6 weeks or being out for the year. So I don't think Chris Olave is a number 1 receiver. I think he's a 2/3. But the problem we have is I feel that Rashid Shaheed's our number 2 guy, even coming back from an injury. I still feel like he's your number 2 because he's your speed receiver. So you really need to have a true number 1, the Marcus Colston, Eric Martin, Joe Horn, Michael Thomas kind of receiver outside. And I think that's showing. So, he never was a number 1. That's just not the kind of receiver he is. He is a inside/wide receiver, not a contested catch, physical threat X receiver. So what do you think? Calvin's asking about Andrew Armstrong from Arkansas. What do you think of him?
Let me see. Give me 1 second. I'm just pulling something up.
I've got some opinions, not on him, but I've got some other physical receivers I'm looking at. And one of the funny things is, speaking of Chris Olave, it's funny how many times Isaiah Bond is right there for me to pick at 40.
Mm-hmm.
And he's sometimes there at 71. But Isaiah Bond, to me, you're picking up a younger Brandon Cooks.
Yeah. Armstrong, I mean, I don't have much opinion on him. I didn't really watch too much of Arkansas, so I'll have to take a look at it. But, like I said, I don't have much of opinion on him at this current time to really say, yeah, that's my guy or something like that.
Well, my problem with Armstrong, and it's not really a problem per se, I just feel like he doesn't have the production you're looking for. And I'm not being ugly about it or anything like that. I just don't think that he is just um he is going to be a guy who is going to be a better receiver in the pros than he was in college. This magazine doesn't even have him in here. I'm just looking
Yeah.
at this right now. Um, I don't know. Again, we're now looking at guys late in the draft. I'm looking at guys right now like Jaden Higgins from Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
That's a physical. He's 6'3", 210. He's not a fast receiver, but he's your contested guy. I just
Yeah.
don't know if he's going to be an X receiver.
Right.
Then next guy I'm looking at is a guy like Savion Williams from TCU. He's a speed
Mm-hmm.
guy, but he's got size to him.
Yeah.
But is he an actual receiver or is he a gadget guy like Paulson Debo, like Debo Samuel? I don't know. And the problem is so much of this draft is full of small guys, 5'11" speedsters. So then you're stuck going down into Trey Harris,
Yeah.
who we got to see his work ethic. I don't know what his work ethic's like. They're calling him a mediocre athlete with poor explosive speed and agility, and he doesn't get much yards after the catch. So that's the hard part about a lot of these guys. I like Caden Prather from Maryland,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know if he's ready to be an X either. I love Jack Besh from TCU, but I have a feeling too many people are going to have Jack Besh circled on their board.
Yeah.
So that's where you start running into problems. So
Mm-hmm.
if McMillan is there at 9, for some reason he gets past the Patriots, do you go ahead and grab McMillan then at 9?
Yeah, I would definitely consider it. I think you can't pass up his size, and I think some people are just kind of overthinking things. They're overthinking, like, oh, receivers who run this type of 40 don't typically get taken in the top 10. If they do, they become these busts, and it's like you're overthinking it. Look at the tape. Trust the tape. Just trust his tape. If you think he's the guy, he's your ex, you take him. If you look at the tape and he's not, and he leaves more to be desired, then you pass on him. Don't. This is where you don't look at the nerds and get their opinion. You tell them to shove it. Go do some calculus homework, and you just watch the tape.
Well, the thing about it is, I feel like everyone kind of grades receivers based off of 40 times and how fast they come out of the break. Jerry Rice was not a fast receiver. Um, Michael Irvin was not a fast receiver, but these guys ran immaculate routes, and they were just so physical with the defensive backs. And that's what the Saints are looking for. The Saints already have a burner. They've got a couple burners on this team now. They need somebody who can be a true number one starting outside receiver on day one and be that impact guy, that 70 to 80 catch guy who you go to on third down. And if you take Tyler Warren, that takes some pressure off of finding that receiver, but you still need a guy like that. And that's why I kind of agree with Calvin here. I mean, it's tough because now you're taking 2 receiving threats at 9 and 40, but at the same time your defense is just awful. So you need to go ahead and get some defensive guys as well. So who are you passing up for that?
Yeah.
If Tyler Warren and McMillan are both ill at 9, which one are you drafting?
I want to say Tyler Warren. I want Tyler Warren, but it's probably going to be McMillan.
Yeah, I it's tough because I feel the same way. I love Warren, but I got to take McMillan just at that position. Okay, so Jimmy Gumbo asks, "Is this whole thing a house of cards if McCoy gets hurt again?" No, because I think that's why they brought in Will Clapp.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that?
Kind of. I think bringing in Will Clapp does help. I also think they might try and get another center in. Like they won't just have Ruiz kind of be a backup center or try a backup center in terms with like Lucas Patrick, where he's just already on the starting lineup. Just you have to kick him over. No, they're gonna get and they're gonna have like 3 or 4 backup centers. I think they brought. I don't know if they brought back Shane Lemieux. I think they did. They brought in Will Clapp, and I think they're going to bring in a UDFA. I would keep an eye on a guy like Jake Majors in UDFA from Texas. I know he's been kind of struggling, but I think that's one name. Keep an eye on. There's Cooper Mays from Tennessee, maybe Gus Hardwig from Purdue, or even Drew Kendall from Boston College. Just keep an eye for like one UDFA that'll be brought in to compete in this unholy mess behind Eric
Yeah,
McCoy.
I think they learned their lesson about McCoy getting hurt. I just feel like that's Will Clapp. Will Clapp is the number one guy that got pulled in for that because Clapp did start for the Chargers under Brandon Staley when Brandon Staley was head coach. So it's just that's their plan. But where I was going before we started answering these questions was if you take a defensive player or an offensive player at 9, I think you're kind of required to take a defensive player at 40. Just because I feel like you got to get something. You need an edge rusher. You need a cornerback, a starting cornerback. You've got some. You may not need a defensive tackle right away. You may be able to wait to see if Cam Jackson's available late in the draft from Florida because he's your big, space-eating nose tackle. But you did make the trade for Dylan for Godshaw. You did bring back Saunders and Sanders. You did draft the kid from
Shepard.
Shepard Saunders. Sorry. You did draft the big kid last year late, I think 7th round pick.
Boyd.
From so Boyd. So it's just I know I like Alfred Collins a lot. Believe it or not, Alfred Collins is another guy who slides in these drafts. I always see Alfred Collins at 93, at 112. I'm seeing him. I don't know if that's going to be a guy who's actually going to make it all the way down to the 4th round. It's tough because I would if I had somebody I felt confident on the outside. We would have brought back a Debo. I probably am taking a flyer on a cornerback for Tulane as my 4th corner because I think he's better than the undrafted guys that we have. I mean, we re-signed Ugo Amadi. We brought back Isaac Gidham, and we still have Rico Payton on the team. But I wouldn't want to see any of those guys out there starting full time. So, to me, if you don't get a starting cornerback, then you're kind of stuck with let's go get a guy. Let's go get Asante Samuel. We'll pay him a lot of money. And just to be a starter for a year, and then we're looking at replacing him maybe in a couple of years, or you've got to find somebody to put in as a body. So edge rusher then, are there any edge rushers that you see available in the 2nd round? Mikael Williams will be gone. Walker will be gone. Who do you see as an edge rusher that could possibly be there in the 2nd round that you like?
Probably LSU's Braden Swinson. Probably Landon Jackson from Arkansas. I don't know. Nick Skirden is going to be available in the 2nd round. A part of me would be a little shocked if he does fall out of the first round. But I think you got plenty of options. I mean, there's Kyle Kennard from South Carolina. I think day two, even early day three, you can find an edge rusher in the between rounds 2 through 4.
What about it's so funny. I'm seeing Shamir Stewart
Mm-hmm.
showing up in the first round now, and there's a guy who just doesn't have any sacks.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's so funny, if you see a guy like him out there in the first round, going to the top 10 even. I'm seeing him as the number 3 or number 4 pass rusher. What about a guy like Mike Green from Marshall?
He wouldn't be bad. I think he's solid enough. He definitely has production. Just needs more starting experience, needs more consistent production. But I think Mike Green would be a little interesting. I'm just if he's there in the second round, I think that's a great value. But I think he'll be a first round. I think he should be a first round pick. If he somehow falls out of first round, it's because no one bought his Senior Bowl performance.
And it's funny because I think he would be a real test on to see how the Saints feel about character, because traditionally they've passed on bad, questionable character guys, and that's I got Kyron Lacey as my as my 4th round pick, as my contested catch receiver, but yeah, Mike Green's got some questions about his character, questions about his weight. Arm length, a lot of negatives behind him.
Yeah, he at his pro day, he had it today. He officially listed as 248 pounds.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely that tweener fit. I think he'd be fine, but yeah, arm length is definitely a question. It's at 32 inches, which is a bit on the shorter side for a traditional edge rusher.
Yeah, and I just feel like he I don't know, a kid from Boston College who's a big bust. Yeah, I don't think he's Davenport. I think he's kind of the opposite of Davenport. I think he's more of what was that kid who was a big workout warrior? Malamula, Mike Malamula, Boston College kid, was like the poster boy for the not pro day, for the scouting combine, because his draft stock really shot up after that. And I don't feel good about Mike Green, but he's a guy who's a borderline first, second round pick. After that, I mean, Calvin and Brian Russell both mentioned Sawyer from Jack Sawyer from Ohio State. Is he really a stand-up edge rusher? Or is he a 3-point stand, put his hand in the dirt edge rusher?
Talking about who?
Jack Sawyer from Ohio State.
Yeah, he seems more a hand in the ground kind of edge rusher. I think he's more like if this was still the Dennis Allen defense, he'd be a better fit for that than I think for a stand-up edge rusher. Could be wrong, but from what I've seen, he's more of a fit for that traditional 4-3 edge rusher. He just has so much limited athleticism and limited length.
Okay, so if we're going to take a flyer on somebody, let's say for the sake of argument that we go ahead and take a receiver in the first round, and then in the second round we take a cornerback. So now we're still looking for our edge guy, and it's getting late in the draft because the guys just are not falling right. We've taken a running back, we've taken an offensive lineman. Q Robinson from Alabama is somebody that they have predicted as a day 3 pick because of his injury history. He's 6'4", 236, probably around 240 is probably what they have listed to him now. This is a guy that, had he had a healthy career, probably could be a first, second round kind of player. But he's a guy now predicted to be a late day 3 pick because He's a little light, and he's gotten injured a lot. What do you think of Q Robinson from Alabama?
Be a fun project. I mean, right now you're just trying to figure out who fits this defense that you want to run. Who fit? Who's the? Who are the right guys? You got to see what you got to do with Carl Granson. You got to see if Foskey can make that transition to being back to being a stand-up edge rusher. What is, how much is Cam Jordan's role going to be? What is his role going to be? You got so much shuffling parts. So if getting a project edge rusher can be nice if things are working out, but kind of a detriment if you need someone on that opposite end sooner than later.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. I know Brian's saying no, need to stop getting injury prone guys, and I agree with that. But at the same time, I'm also looking at him in day 3, where you're looking at guys that these are guys who have question marks, all of them. To me, I think Q Robinson is a guy that you take a flyer on. We don't have a 5th round pick.
One guy I would love to get in the 4th round is the kid from Louisville, Ashton Gilliott.
Okay. What do you know about Ashton?
He's a very good pass rusher, had 57 pressures in his final year. I think he's got very good explosiveness. He's definitely built in that tweener state. He's kind of 6'3", 275. I think he has all the tools. It's mostly cleanup he needs. He's very, very relentless, very physical. Just keep improving, keep cleaning up what you need to clean up.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we start looking at late day 3 picks. It's tough to project them in need areas like that, like edge rusher. I'm looking at more. It is a question. That's a legitimate question. Does he fit the new defense too? I mean, that's the big question mark when it comes to Foskey.
Yeah.
Foskey just has not produced anything, and it's tough. This is a now or never. This is a make or break. And the funny thing about Foskey, and this is what perplexes me. Foskey has the record for most sacks by a Notre Dame player. And this isn't Southwest Missouri State Junior College. This is Notre Dame, where they've had a lot of talent come out of that school, offensive and defensive talent. And this guy has produced nothing out of that. So I really don't know. I don't know. But I mean, that is probably the one guy I am watching more than any other player this training camp to see if the light finally comes on for him with a new team. I don't know what to expect out of him. I don't want to count on him. I want him to be a Zach Bond kind of surprise where he beats out somebody and just produces lights out. But I don't know. I really don't know what to say about him. I get that. I just feel like if it's getting late in the draft and Q Robinson's still on the board, I'm taking a flyer on him. Yeah, Brian, I just don't know what to say about it. That's why I'm so nervous about getting an edge rusher, because I want somebody who's dependable, and I would love for Foskey to surprise the hell out of me and beat out Carl Granderson at the other position. Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Miller's another one. I don't know what to make of Miller, because we've seen glimpses, but he gets hurt. And it's injuries that should only take a couple of weeks, and he just drags it out for months. And I don't know what to do with him. That's why I want a running back.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the last thing we're going to talk about this evening. Running backs. I picked up Caleb Johnson in my draft just because he was the best player available. But what running backs do you like outside of Genty and probably the North Carolina guy,
Mm-hmm.
who's going to be the other number one pick,
Yeah.
first round pick. Who do you like in this draft? Looking at maybe in pick 40, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe as low as pick 71, third round pick.
So pick 40, it'd be a little reach, but I would do it regardless. And that is Travion Henderson from Ohio State. I love him to death. His tape is just really good because he makes it hard for you to take him off the field. He
Yeah.
can he can run very well. He catches very well. He picks up blitzes and pass blocks very well. This is just like I said, he does not want to get off the field and will do everything to stay on the field. I love running backs like that. And you know, if the Saints get him, there's your compliment. I know his body type, 5'10", 208, that's not exactly, aspiring. You want someone a little bigger, but you don't pass up a running back like that can play all three levels incredibly well. I also like Dylan Sampson from Tennessee. I think he's a little smaller. He's about 5'8", 220. I'm sorry, 5'8", 200, but I still really like him because he can convert short yardage situations. He's not a heavy hitter in the same realm as like Scadaboo or Damian Martinez, but when it's like 3rd and 2, he'll get you 3 yards.
The funny thing is, in a lot of my drafts, I have not been able to draft Scadaboo because I can't figure out where he falls.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he goes in the 3rd, sometimes he goes in the 4th. And he is slotted most of the time as like a 4th round pick. Like he's rated like 80th or 75th best player on the board. So it's always like it's too early for me to take him. So it's tough because I really, really like him. I think he has got a lot of Taysom Hill kind of energy that he brings to a team, especially that kind of power inside running. I also like Judkins a lot from Ohio State because what I'm looking for, just like we're looking for receivers, big physical receivers, I'm looking for big physical running backs because I think Kamara should still be the outside guy, get him in space, while you take a big physical kind of a step above Mark Ingram, kind of more of a Deuce McAllister in his later years kind of back. Somebody who can fight and get between the tackles, but can also pass block, can catch some swing passes. So the guys I've been looking at, aside from the guys that you guys have mentioned, I really like the kid from Miami, Damian Martinez,
Mm-hmm.
6 foot 241. He's
Yeah.
built like a brick house. Now he's not a great pass catcher, but he is a power running back, and I look at him like a Rodney Hampton going back in time a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Just a strong guy to get that
Yeah.
short yardage.
Yeah, fun fact about Martinez. We know Ashley Genty is like he's first. He averages almost 6 yards after 6 yards attempt yards at the contact. Right behind him is Damian Martinez, averaging 4.51 yards per attempt after contact.
Yeah, he's not going to be the guy that's gonna get a lot of yardage passing, but as a pass blocker or a lot of yardage as just as a pass catcher. But
Mm-hmm.
that's what we got Kamara for, and I don't think he's going to tip the ball, tip things off because we're going to be doing different things with football with
Yeah.
both of them in the backfield. I just feel like, if you put him and Taysom Hill in the backfield together and you run an RPO, you don't know who's going to get the ball, but all you know is someone's going to hit you hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, Judkins I like a lot. Judkins is later in the draft. Henderson is probably the more complete back of the two because he is a pass catcher. He reminds me of Pierre Thomas. He really does. But Judkins is definitely the inside short yardage guy, the power back. the power back of the two. You know what I don't trust about Genty? I don't trust all the carries he's gotten. I don't know what to say about that other than, I just feel like he's gotten, I don't know. I just can't see taking Genty at 9 right now anymore. I used to because he was best player available, but now I'm letting Dallas take a shot on him.
Mm-hmm. The Raiders are going to take him.
It's funny you mentioned Saunders from South Carolina, Calvin. I thought I put it up there. Sorry. I'm sorry. It was Brian Russell who said it. I've got ATN on my latest draft. I don't know if you didn't hear me earlier, Brian, because you came on late, but I got Trevor Etienne at the very end of the draft as a kick returner and kind of a third down back. But the kid, Rocket Saunders, Raheem Saunders from South Carolina, another big size running back. He's got a lot of A.J. Dillon in him, and I like that a lot. So he's another guy you're looking at 4th round, around 93, pick 93.
I've seen him drop further than that. Like, I've seen him go 7th round.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's weird. But, it's another guy, that you could look at later on in the draft and see what you can get out of him. Like I said, a lot of these picks depend on how the draft falls and where you're getting your guys, because you still need to get an offensive guard. You still need to get a offensive tackle, I feel, to make sure that your offensive line doesn't go from starters to guys you're pulling in off the street. You need depth there. That's, but I want to upgrade my running back room. I want to upgrade my receiving room. I'd like to upgrade my why is that doing that? I guess because my hands were out. I'd like to upgrade the tight end room, but that's not critical to me. If I don't get Tyler Warren at 12, I'm not that upset if I don't get a tight end in this draft. That doesn't mean we don't need a tight end, but I just, it's not a priority for me to get him right now. I'm looking at other holes in this team first. This is just the first draft of 2 or 3 more that you're going to need to really rebuild this team. And that's why when we started at quarterback position, there's not a quarterback I got to have. There's quarterbacks I like, but not a quarterback that I've got to have. Yeah, Mason Taylor is intriguing in the 3rd. But again, I've got to do some trading down so I get more picks. Brian, real quick, just for you, and this will be the last thing before we wrap up the show. I did a mock draft last night on Pro Football Sports Network. 11 players. I was able to parlay my 1st round pick by trading down twice to get 2 extra 2nd round picks. So I went from 9 to 11 players. I traded with Dallas first to get down from 9 to 12, and I picked up Dallas's 2nd round pick, 44th overall. Then I traded down again with Denver and got Denver's 2nd round pick, as well as Denver's 4th round pick in the 2026 draft. And I used the 20th overall pick to take Mikael Williams. Then I took Xavier Watts, the safety from Notre Dame, at 40. 44, Trey Amos, the cornerback from Ole Miss, 51. I took Deion Walker, the nose tackle from Kentucky. At pick 71, 3rd round pick, I took Caleb Johnson, the running back from Iowa. Pick 93, my other 3rd round pick, I took Kyron Lacey, the receiver from LSU. Pick 112, 4th round, Anthony Belton, the offensive tackle from North Carolina State. Pick 131, Danny Stutzman, the linebacker from Oklahoma, who I love. Pick 184 in the 6th round, Marcus Tate, the offensive guard from Clemson. Pick 248 and 254, the 2 7th round picks, Tyron Ingram Dawkins, the defensive tackle from Georgia, and Trevor Etienne, the running back from Georgia. Kind of filled a lot of my holes. So those are guys that that's just my latest draft. I've done plenty of them with where I've taken quarterbacks too, but I'm always trying to trade down. That's the key. To me, that's the solution to a lot of Saints problems. They've got to trade down from pick 9 and pick up extra 2nd or 3rd round picks, because that's where this draft is the deepest, and that's where you get those impact players that can make an impact right away.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, real quick, last thing. I keep saying these stuff, but the last thing for this evening, where can people find you if they want to read your comments on the draft?
Yeah, they can, go to Budrich17. That's my X handle. Right now, I do have a Worst of Dennis Allen bracket going up. I'm on to the final 4 on that bracket. Right now, the final 4 for Worst of Dennis Allen is currently at apologizing to the Falcons versus not stretching during practice, and placing Kendra Miller on IR before getting fired versus overruling Alvin Kamara's captain status in 2024.
Holy cow. Well, apologizing to the Falcons has got to make it to the final 2. That, to me, that was the unforgivable sin more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us, and thank you, Matt, for filling in for Bob. Bob is on the Love Boat. He will be gone this week, and I believe he might be gone next week, so there'll be no Bayou Blitz Thursday night or Wednesday night, but he will be back. I'm going to follow up with him later on and see when he's will actually be back in town to find out when he'll be on the show again. Matt, we might be pulling you in again next week if Bob isn't back yet, or if he's just burnt out after being on the ship with all those Saints players.
I mean, you can only listen to Love Boat so many times before you just go insane.
So we'll talk then. In the meantime, thank you guys for sticking with us. We'll see you next time around the Dome. Good night, everybody.
Good night.